Okay, if you are interested in doing altars yourself, are looking to expand on something that you're already doing, are just interested in the process of altering and learning how to do it and what it's about, or anything else in between, that is what we're going to be doing here. So the first thing that we will address is supplies, because in order to be able to do altars, you have to have materials. So what I did personally is I used the internet to find my local arts and crafts store. I went down there with about $100, but you're probably not going to spend that much unless you want to go absolutely crazy. The last time I went there and got supplies, I pretty much got just about everything that I needed, and I spent about $50. So the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need money, and you're going to need to find your local arts and crafts store, and you will spend between 30 and 60 bucks depending on how crazy you want to go. And there are some materials, some supplies that you will absolutely need to get, in my opinion. There are some materials and supplies that you don't have to get, but they will utilize certain things that you can do when it comes to altering. The first thing you're going to want is a base set of paint. And the nice thing about this one is it has a variety of colors. It also has a tube of black and a tube of white. And the nice thing about that is that you can make any of those colors lighter or darker depending on what you're trying to do. Another thing is I've been doing this for a little while, so I also picked up these. And one of the things that is really nice about picking up this is when you start doing the altar process on your own cards, you're going to find that you go through certain colors a lot more than others. And for some reason, I've been going through light purple and light blue the most lately. So I got some additional tubes. In addition to getting one of these, I also got some additional to refill on the stuff that I've been utilizing the most. And in the future, if you find that you run out of a lot of these, you just buy another one. If you find that you're pretty much out of like red and green, but you have everything else still, you're not using them as much, then you get the specific colors that you need. And these tubes cost about 80 cents. And this paint will last you a while. There's a lot of paint in these things. Even these small ones, the paint is going to last long enough that you're going to be able to do dozens and dozens, probably hundreds of cards. If I was to utilize all this paint, I could probably do thousands of cards with it. So that takes care of the paint. If you don't have a local arts and crafts store, another place you can go to is Walmart, and I got this at Walmart, and I think it was around $10. And this paint, each set of paint, each brand of paint you use is going to be a little bit different. The nice thing about this paint, this is a little bit thicker, so if you're trying to do lighter colors over a darker surface, sometimes it will kind of blend through and you have to apply multiple layers of paint. And when you have to do that, these are really nice because the paint will go on thick, but not so thick that it's an issue with the card. But you just add water and put it on and let it dry. Another paint that you can get is these little kid paints that you get at grocery stores. And I've used paint from everywhere. It really doesn't matter. You can probably get paint at a gas station as long as it's acrylic paint. Obviously don't get oil-based paint, don't get pastels, don't get chalk. But you can even get these little paint kits from grocery stores, and the paint quality again is going to be a little bit different, but you'll find that you can do certain things with different quality paints. Some of the cheaper may not seem as impressive at first paints, like these are actually some of the paints that I like using the most for certain things because of the way that I want the paint to blend or I want it to dry. The nice thing about these kit paints that you can get from grocery stores is you can put this paint on especially thick, and once it dries, it won't be that thick. Whereas the acrylic paint tubes I got from Walmart, which is what you see here, if you put these on too thick, they'll be an issue. So these are a little bit nicer if you want to do less. These are nicer if you really want to get the color through and you don't want it to dry thick. It's different paints are going to dry differently because of different quality. They're going to blend differently. But you can really get paint from anywhere, and once you get used to utilizing that paint, depending on how you paint yourself, it'll work for you or it won't. And some of it is experimenting. If you're just starting out, you're going to be doing some experimenting. You're going to be making some investments in paints, and you're going to find, I don't use that brush or I don't use that paint very often. But you'll want to expand on a few different things. But the one I highly recommend the most definitely is this one, and I got this from my local arts and crafts store, and it was not that expensive. Once you have paint, you're also going to need something to paint with, and that is where these come in. And this was another item that was, I believe, $8.99 plus tax. You get about a dozen brushes, and the really nice thing about this is these brushes here in the front, especially when it comes to altering, you're working with very small surfaces, very tiny details, and depending on how high up in the altering scale you want to go. There are some alters that are not hard to do. It's color blending. You put some paint on it, you let it dry, you put some more paint on it, you let it dry, and you're done. Other alters are going to require a lot of detail. And if you want to do high-end alters, like stained glass alters, for example, there's a lot of details, there's a lot of little lines, and that's where these really tiny brushes are going to be utilized. You're going to be utilizing the tiny brushes probably more than any other type of brush. The brushes that are in the back allow you to put on a thicker layer of paint to get more done. If you're not doing as much detail work, you're just putting down a base. But you want to get a set of brushes, and you want to make sure that at least half those brushes, maybe 4, 5, 6 of them, especially if you're going to be invested in this for a long time, you can do a lot of really tiny work with. Another thing that I would highly recommend, and it would be on the to get alter list, would be these Sharpie paint pens. And the really nice thing about these is these are going to save you more time than anything else. When you want to do an alter, you have to put paint over a surface. You have to wait for the paint to dry. And a lot of times, especially lighter colors over darker colors, you have to apply multiple layers before you can actually start doing anything, because you're just trying to make it plain, make it one color before you start actually doing the process of altering it. And if you use these Sharpie paint pens, you literally paint around the border of the card, you let it dry, and within minutes, sometimes within a minute, literally, you can count to 60, and you could start doing the alter process right away, and the border that you would see previous is completely obscured and gone, and you can start the altering process right away. So these are going to save you the most time. They're also probably the most expensive. These things are $4 to $5 a piece per marker. This thing, I believe, was $16.99, and this was $16.99 as well. The reason why I have 2 sets is because these are water-based, and these are what I normally use. But recently, with a lot of the Frontier era cards, the newer cards coming out, some of the Commander cards, the cards have been much glossier, and I have found that using an oil base as your base, it'll stick better. Whereas if you use water base over the glossier surfaces, it tends to spread, and you have to do it multiple times, and it defeats the purpose of saving time. If you're having to do it multiple times, you might as well just use regular paint at that point. But if you start with this and then do this one over on top of it, once it dries nicely, and you can just, long story short, these are going to save you a lot of time. You put down your base, and on the newer cards you do an oil base, but the process on this and all of this and everything will be explained in further videos. But for starting out, I would highly recommend these as well. And the last item that I would recommend getting that would be on the priority list would be toothpicks. The reason why you want toothpicks is because when you're done painting, when you're done altering, you're going to get smudges. You're going to try to do stuff over a straight line. That won't always happen. And with toothpicks, also, if you make a mistake and you need to remove paint, with toothpicks, you just get it a little bit wet. You can use a little bit of water, and you literally just scratch very lightly the surface where the paint is that you want to remove. And when it's done, every single alter will have a nice, clean, straight border, and that is the toothpick trick that a lot of alterists know about. You can utilize a toothpick. Sometimes people will do different things to do that, but I like the toothpicks because it's sharp, it's precise, it's pointy, and it gets the job done, and that's what is important. What's important is getting the job done. So you definitely need brushes, you definitely need paint, you definitely need toothpicks. You don't have to get these if you don't want to. They are a little more expensive on the list of things to get, but these are going to save you a lot of time. And if you're invested, if you're going to be doing a lot of these are just as important to me as the paint and the brushes and a place to paint and the toothpicks. Having said that, there are also some other items that you can get that will help with the altering process that are not as required, but they are things that I use. One of them is a X-Acto knife. And in a further video, I'll explain why, in my opinion, the best way to desurface a card isn't with sitting there and rubbing it or having damage from, I mean, everybody has their own process for how they're going to desurface a card. But for me, the one that is the quickest and saves the most time is a X-Acto knife. And you scratch the surface of the card and it flakes right off. And within a couple of minutes, you're done. And you don't have to worry about drying or anything else, and it's a smooth, clean process for desurfacing. So if you are into desurfacing at all, you want to get a X-Acto knife if you want to whiteboard or a lion's eye diamond for some reason. Another thing you want to get is you're going to want to have some pencils. These are mechanical pencils, and so the graphite, lead, whatever the heck is in there, is really thin, and you can utilize it to draw on, and it's a pencil, so you can paint over it. When it's done, you won't even see it, but you want to get pencils, and more specifically, I would recommend mechanical pencils. Another thing that you can get is a straight edge. A ruler allows you to do very specific things if you're doing, for example, blueprint alters, which is something that will be done and shown in further videos. We'll be doing some blueprint alters, and a ruler is very nice for that because it's a straight edge. And if you need to put down anything in blueprint alters that involves centimeters, millimeters, lines, inches, etc., you also have a way of measuring if you need to do any of that. Another example would be split-second cards. Split-second cards right down the middle and has a line, you want it to be straight. Ruler really helps with that. And lastly, another thing you can get is these are Sharpies. I did not go out and buy these. Somebody, when I first started the altering process, had a bunch of Sharpies, and he said, here, you can have these, utilize them if you can. And at first, I didn't think I'd be utilizing them that much, but you are going to have a signature on the card. If you want your signature to be quick and fast, because you're going to be spending most of your time altering, you can use Sharpies for your signature with the fine point, which is what I've done. And every once in a while, I will paint a card. When I'm done, I want to do fine detail work, and I will use Sharpies to do the fine detail work. And most people, they won't even know that you used a Sharpie, but you don't have to get Sharpies. This is just something that I kind of got as a bonus, and I have found them useful. So if you get a set of small Sharpies, especially for your signature on your card, I would recommend them because you don't have to worry about drying when you're signing the card. You just put it on there and it's done and it's quick. Also, you're going to want a place to paint and something to paint on. And I have been utilizing my 4-binder, especially since it's been getting kind of old. And it allows you to, maneuver and whatnot. Because if you're gonna be doing a lot of alters, you might have a trade folder full of alters. You can use the trade folder that you put them in. And I've just been utilizing my 4-binder. But I utilize a small binder as well as a surface. Sometimes I just sit here and I set the card down and I paint on the table that the computer is on. In the end, whatever works for you for a surface. You're going to need a place to paint. You're going to need something to paint on. You're going to need cards to paint. You're going to need paint itself. You're going to need brushes. And you're definitely going to want toothpicks and Sharpie paint pens to help you save time. The cleanup process, the toothpicks are really nice for that when you want that fine finished look at the end with straight edges and no paint smudges. And again, when you're starting out, these Sharpie paint pens they save so much time. So in the future, we will be utilizing the videos we'll do simple alters, we'll do easy alters, we'll do stuff from the newer Sol Ring where you just black border it and you're essentially done. To the old version of Sol Ring, which is a lot more complicated and has a lot more detail. There's fire and you're expanding it over an older border. We'll be addressing just about everything that you can think of when it comes to altering. New cards, old cards, how you want to do them. Stained glass alters are going to be addressed. Blueprint alters are going to be addressed. Simple alters. I'm even going to do an experiment with black and whiting and essentially taking the color away from a card just by painting it black and white. And I have no idea how I'm going to do that one yet. That's more of a newer idea. But we're going to be trying out all those things here. So if you're interested, if you are doing alters yourself, if you want to expand on what you're already doing, you just want to know the process or anything in between, that's what's going to be going on. And we'll be uploading videos anywhere from once every week to 10 days to sometimes we might do a video every night for like a week. It's just going to be whenever I can do it. It'll be more common on the weekdays. It'll be less common on the weekends because the weekends are usually when I go out to events and I'm doing stuff on the floor and trading. But that's it. Thank you for watching the first one, and hopefully we'll see you in the future.